Claire is my name, and on April 18th, I discovered just how harmful it can be when a pampered heir believes everything owes him compliance. It began as any other Thursday would. Good morning. By 7 a.m., I was in my office. Coffee on the one hand, setting up their ports every 3 months for our largest customer, the same customer who had essentially prevented the business from last year's bankruptcy. At that point, the door slammed. Carter Nathaniel, 19 years old, our CEO's son, and the heir to he had never worked for a single company. A day of honesty. Designer, he strode in, uncomfortably, his suit hung on his lanky frame, eyes burning brightly with the type of fridge that only a pampered child may experience when someone is brave enough to say no. "You believe you can disregard me?" he growled. He struck my desk with his fist. "When I give a command, and you obey it." I remained seated, composed and businesslike. "I don't follow directions from Nathaniel interns." His face flushed. "I will be the CEO in the future. This is something you'll regret." I arched an eyebrow. "I'll then take care of you when you're the CEO, in fact." In the meanwhile, I indicated courteously, heading for the door. "Please go." My workspace. I was aware that dismissing him in that way would return to haunt me. I simply didn't anticipate that same evening. Permit me to turn you to a few months prior to that, early in the morning when Richard Carter, our CEO, declared his son's arrival to the business for experience. The majority of us thought Nathaniel would spend some time weeks spent observing departments prior to becoming disinterested and disappearing back to whatever opulent resort he had slithered out of. We were mistaken. Nathaniel received the position of Director of Junior Operations, a title I had obtained following 5 years of late nights, sweat, and blood, without genuine credentials and no comprehension of our business's operations. And in his mind, that implied that he was expected to obey his commands. ATI initially played along. I fixed his errors in silence. I corrected his terrible proposals prior to their delivery to clients. Ivan filled in for him when he was absent. Due dates? Why? Because my career was important to me. Due to I had faith in this business, and perhaps since I assumed he would mature. I was also mistaken about that. The tipping point occurred 2 weeks prior to Thursday a.m. Nathaniel stormed in, brought a file into my office and threw it on my desk and declared, "Set the Johnson crew on fire. I found them annoying." The Johnson Group, my squad, recently obtained a $3.5 million agreement for the business. "I'm not letting someone go because they irritate you," I said, maintaining a composed tone. His answer: "I'll inform my dad that you declined a direct order." I looked him in the eye without flinching. "Proceed." He rushed out. I believed that would put a stop to it. I believed he would be given some common sense by his father. However, I had misjudged how fair entitlement would disappear. On the evening of the spring gala every year, I was representing our clients around the world, the same division that I had created from the ground up more than 6 years. Everything seemed ideal. The place was glistening. The financiers were happy. I briefly allowed me to think that effort truly paid off something. My phone then began to buzz. One Richard Carter texted, "Come to my office first, Claire." Something in the morning. I experienced my stomach ache. I didn't get much sleep that evening. 7:30 a.m. found me standing in front of Richard's workstation. He refused to look me in the eye. "I'm afraid I must, Claire." However, before I leaned in so he could finish. "Examine your first inbox." His face turned completely white, due to the fact that I had been recording everything. Richard Carter gazed at his computer screen as though a live grenade was used. The hue faded, away from his face. He made 1, 2, opened the folder I had sent him in secret the previous evening. 43 forwarded emails were included, each Nathaniel's only one. A few were absurd, even bordering on unlawful. Nathaniel was in charge of the ordering departments in order to fabricate delivery reports. Nathaniel requesting that the finance team make figures to support his predictions. Nathaniel sent me a straight email with gems, such as, "Just follow my instructions, or I'll make certain that you're not in." I stood quietly, allowing Richard to process everything. At last, he reclined in his seat. He let out a long sigh. I was without notion. I crossed my arms. Did you not? Hef flinched, since the reality was that he had recognized. Part of it, anyway. However, turning. It's simpler to ignore something when it's the golden lad is misbehaving. Simpler up until you receive proof in your inbox. Richard put his hands over his head. Why didn't you come to me, Claire? Earlier. I spoke at a level tone, since I believed that this business in merit, as well as because I was unwilling to be the cause of your family's collapse. His eyes were alert as he looked up, and something between dread and guilt. My board is able to never see this. I looked at him sharply. Richard, I'm not here to threaten you. I've come since your son entered my office this morning and insisted that IA team that just saved you 3.5 should be fired million. Upon my refusal, he pledged to ruin my professional life. I stopped let that sink in. I arrived here because I won't let a brat who is 19 to treat people enjoy trash when you're looking at the opposite manner. For a little moment, the sole noise, the quiet buzz of the air filled the room. Conditioner, Richard then muttered. What do you want? I asked, grinning simply. Just a little. My career is what I want. I'd want the Johnson team was safe. This is what I desire. Absurdity to halt before it explodes in your face. And that's yours, Nathaniel. Issue. I was heartbroken when I left Richard's office. Thumping. Retaliation wasn't the point, not yet. It had to do with fairness and making, indeed, hard labor was still important. However, by on Monday morning, I became aware that Nathaniel refused to let it go. It began whispering. Emails that I was unexpectedly stopped. Rescheduled meetings without me. Approvals of the budget are delayed. The nuanced corporation sabotage art. I managed to Nathaniel grinning outside of a plan I had been left out of the meeting. Hearily gave me a wink. Here's the thing. Concerning conceited individuals such as Nathaniel. They believe they can manipulate power. They are unaware that occasionally the ones they attempt to walk on are keeping the foundation in place. Richard phoned me back in a week later. You're right, he muttered. Nathaniel is unmanageable. I brought up an eyebrow. Excellent. Thus you've talked to him?